Welcome to Bird Camp Radio, where the coveys rise from the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and the shelf rock ledges. Here at camp, the fire's always glowing, the dogs are never far, and the stories of birds, wild places, and the upland life are just beginning. This is Bird Camp Radio. Before we get into today's episode, I want to thank a company Rachel and I personally trust, Pet Commute. We have worked with them several times ourselves, and I can tell you firsthand, they are reliable, safe, punctual, and they give frequent transport updates. That peace of mind matters, especially when it's your dog. If you're a breeder, buyer, trainer, running field dog trials, traveling to a hunt, or honestly just need to get a pet somewhere safely, Pet Commute is a perfect fit for bird dog folks. They offer free transportation quotes, and make sure to mention Bird Camp Radio to get 10% off your pet's travel. Check the link in the show notes, our social media bios, or the comments. I highly recommend them. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bird Camp Radio podcast. I'm your host, Kellen Golightly, and we're excited to be here for episode 40 with Brian Vander Maazen. Just a little bit earlier, he sent in his bio, and I'm going to read that for us real quick. Brian Vander Maazen is the owner and operator of Amaazen Outdoors, a professional upland bird hunting guide and bird dog trainer. Based in Wisconsin, Brian guides ruffed grouse and woodcock hunters through the thick Northwoods, where quick flushes, hard shooting, and good dogs work to find the experience. His approach is rooted in the tradition of hunting wild birds over pointing dogs, with a deep appreciation for the habitat, the challenge, and the people who choose to spend their days in the woods. When the Northwoods season winds down, Brian heads south to New Mexico, where he guides wild quail hunts with Santa Fe Guiding Company. The country and birds may be different, but the same pursuit remains at the heart of the work, following good dogs through wild country in search of wild birds. Ruffed grouse and woodcock in Wisconsin to quail in the desert Southwest. Brian brings a respect for the resource, the hunt, and the experience shared with every client. Outside of hunting season, Brian devotes his time handling and developing dogs. He works to build the independent handling, style, and bird sense needed to perform in grouse cover and on the cover dog trial circuit. As a professional handler, Brian competes in cover dog trials, bringing the same attention to preparation, dog work, and partnership that defines his guiding career. Brian, we're excited to have you on. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, we're excited to have you on, and that's quite the bio you have there, and we're excited to dig into that with you today. But as we all know, before we get started, we're going to play a quick game of rapid fire around the campfire with you.
Right on.
You don't have any questions about it? I think we'll get started with it.
I've listened to a few shows. Let's give it a roll.
All right, here we go, man. Favorite wild bird to chase?
Roughies.
Most challenging bird?
Montezuma quail.
Favorite dog trait?
Probably drive.
Best bird for eating?
Roughies.
Go-to field snack?
Jerky.
Dream hunting destination?
Alaska.
Favorite month to hunt?
October.
Game bag or vest?
Game bag all day.
Solo hunt or with a group?
That's a toughie. Group probably, but I do like my solo days.
Heck yeah. Lead or still shot?
Lead all day.
There we go. That's it. I think it's looking pretty good for you.
I had an advantage, man, and after 40 podcasts and listening to a few, I kind of knew what the questions were coming.
Hey, I
struggled though. I actually was thinking about that most challenging bird to hunt, and it's a tough one. There's a lot of really tough quarry out there.
Oh yeah, I mean I agree with you on that because here in Utah we have a ton of roughies, right? And I feel like it's like here we hunt them in the deep pines and thickets. and they're like bottle rockets. So half the time, I think when it comes to my ratio with percentage of hitting and missing, I'm probably taking out more pine trees than I have birds, honestly.
Yeah, and roughies are really tough to hunt too in certain years, depending on the hatch and the conditions and whatnot. And that goes for Montezuma quail too. I have a chip on my shoulder. I'm a professional hunting guide for quail in New Mexico, and the last few years have been very poor for Montezuma quail, which has made it super challenging. And we haven't been able to guide any customers. But when I've taken my few days off, it's like I head to the mountains, man, and I've gotten my ass kicked, excuse my French, the last couple of years, and it humbles me as a professional. But I don't know too many people who've been doing too well down there the last couple of years on Montezumas. So yeah, it's they're a tough bird. I haven't quite figured them out, and that humbles me as a professional in this industry. So
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. I mean, that's crazy being able to.
I've gone down to Arizona and hunted them down there and not had a problem. But New Mexico's a different animal. The mountains are a little bit more, a little different in New Mexico, and it's like I said, the drought down in the Southwest has really hampered how many birds are on the landscape. So it's a needle in the haystack kind of hunt.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
trust right now down there.
See, and I don't. I've always wanted to hunt quail. Where I'm at here in Utah, I mean, we have quail in Utah, but like population wise and getting on hunting public lands with quail is kind of difficult. A lot of it's private where I'm at least. Down south towards like St. George area is a little bit better,
Sure.
but I've never gone out. I want to, need to, I just haven't.
I struggled too with that question about favorite bird. I've been a rough grouse hunter my whole life, and guiding down south in New Mexico is kind of a new venture for me. And but I started hunting quail probably 8-9 years ago, pretty hard, and you just can't beat a 40 bird covey flush. I mean, it it's way better sometimes than a rough grouse hunt, and I'd argue, it's just it'll ball you up real quick.
Crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I need to get out and do it. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Well,
do
we're
you guys have
going to
scale
talk.
quail? I don't know much about Utah, but you guys have scale quail out there?
Honestly, I know that we have Californian gamble.
Okay, okay.
I think we only have the two now. No, hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure it's just Californian gambles.
Yeah,
I
I
think we
don't
got.
know. I don't know much about Utah other than what you've shared on the show. To be honest with you, it's a state that has been a little bit under my radar.
Hey, if you ever get the opportunity, definitely. I definitely recommend. Not to hot spot it, but I mean, it's a great state. I mean, heck, 70% of it's public land, so
Yeah,
it's
right
great.
on.
No, man. Well, we're excited to get you on here and share a little bit more about you. Um, for the ones that are new to the podcast, and for the ones that already know, as you already know, we like to bring on uplanders from all walks of life across the country and Canada to talk about upland hunting, of course, and what they do within upland hunting and why they continue to stay in upland hunting. And so, kind of just getting started, where did it all begin for you as an uplander?
So, I mean, it started, way back in the day. We ground swatted roughies up here. Just, we had a property where there was always some rough grouse around, and so we as kids go out shoot them with the 22, and um,
All the day.
I mean, as crude as it is, it's just the reality. We didn't know any better. None of us had dogs, and it was later in life that I had gotten introduced to dogs, at late 20s, and timing wasn't right for me. But by the time I had hit 30, it was like, okay, I can get dogs now, and it's become quite an addiction after that. But yeah, the line there, I guess, started, as ground swatting birds as kids, but. In my 20s, I started going up north to northern Minnesota. My brother was a dockhand up on the Canadian border at a resort, and so you could just go walk trails back there and foot flush grouse all day long. and it was spruce grouse and rough grouse, and so it was really cool. Had a lot of opportunities there, and I just knew dogs were into it. So I got a pointing dog about 12 years ago, and haven't really looked back since then. And actually, the addiction led to leaving a nice corporate job to starve as a hunting guide. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's all about the dogs really for me. That's the biggest key. I don't know that I'd be chasing the uplands and running around all these places if I wasn't chasing a dog now. But it did start without a dog, and I'll never remember. I had some of the best grouse hunts I've ever had in my life were without a dog, and there's a whole strategy to kind of hunt that way, and it can be very effective.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very on good years where you got a good hatch. I mean, oh yeah, yeah. It. Sometimes the dogs really kind of mess things up. Those birds, especially in certain areas where they don't see a lot of people, they're not very afraid of people. But you throw a dog on the ground, and that's way closer to that natural predator for them, and the game shifts a little bit, and it's yeah, that's where it becomes, I think, a lot more challenging to get them pinned with a dog because they get more flighty, they get really weary. Up by me, they run a lot. We've got a lot of running grouse, so they might run 40 yards and hunker down. And where if you were walking in the woods by yourself, that he might not run that far, but he knows he's being pursued by a four-legged critter. He's going to evade it for sure.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Run like that,
I
man.
know you don't have a dog, man. Wait till you get a dog and try to go chase
I
those.
know. I'm living what you went through. I just turned 25, and hopefully, I mean, the Utah market's just absolutely crazy. But we're looking at this year, hopefully, finally getting a house and
Yep.
settling down to be able to get one. So
That was my thing too, dude. I had to get a house before I could get a dog, and yeah, I think it was 29 when I finally bought my house. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
you get it.
I do, man. And I had to move out of that old house out here because I needed more dogs, and I wasn't going to be able to do it where I was before. So the progression happens.
It all comes full circle at the end of the day. I love it, man. No, that's cool. I mean, I feel like every guide like has their moment where their hobby becomes something bigger, and for you, that ended up being, of course, your company now, Amaazen Outdoors. How did that all come to play? I mean, going from ground swatting roughies to now being this. I mean, that's awesome, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, I had a couple mentors, man, and found that I don't know. I mean, there's guys out there that they got to kill to have the experience, right? And I was like that. I mean, I definitely was chasing bag limits when I was younger, and there's to a certain degree, I'm not going to shit on. Excuse my language, but I'm not gonna say they're wrong. But my hope for those people is they find something deeper within the experience that ties them to what they're doing. And you can see a couple deer and turkeys back here. I mean, I've guided turkey hunts, black bear hunts. I've been a deer hunter my whole life, and I sat in the tree stand 2 days last year. And it's just a matter of, for me now, and how do you get there? You ask is the dogs, and it's all about the dogs, and so that addiction and having a mentor and teaching you kind of, hey, that dog, flush that bird. You probably don't want to do that, if you got a pointing dog. It was early on, my first dog. I didn't know what I was doing, and then it really became about the find, the bird find. And once things kind of shifted to that moment where it was like, I don't have to kill. I just want my dog to find a bird and hold the bird, create an opportunity for me or somebody else. That's what really kind of inflated the balloon, I guess you could say.
I love it.
Yeah, there's something about that. You're in the woods. You're paired up with an animal you can't speak to. You have a bond that's more or less, call it silent. There's some communication, but whether or not they fully understand what you're saying, they've learned to work with you more or less and have developed to work with you in the way that you want them to work. And having, a fine gun dog is a lot of work, a lot of work. Having a really nice, good hunting dog is one thing, but having like a championship quality dog on steady to wing and shot, it's a ton of work, and it's something to try to achieve, and strive for. But not everybody has to play that game, and not all of my dogs are broke. Actually, I have one dog that's really trying to run and maybe be competitive. Probably won't even happen this year because I'm not a very hands-on or hard dog trainer. I really believe in giving the dog the opportunity to develop on its own pace and kind of set up the scenarios and give them the opportunity to do it right, but not with a real heavy hand. And it takes time to develop a grouse dog, 3-4 years sometimes to get a good one.
To get a good one. See,
Yeah.
it's amazing to be able to see the
And I've
state.
seen, I've seen dogs come out of the box at 6 months old and, are damn good dogs, but the difference between that and, like I said, a championship dog can be a lot. Can be a lot.
That's
So,
awesome. So what kind of breed are you running typically, or do you have several different, or how does that look for you?
so I own short hairs and pointers. So an English pointer. I'm started to kind of get a little bit more into the English pointer or pointer breed. I love short hairs. I'll always have a short hair on my truck. As I kind of added that down south guiding and 100+ days a year in the field, the durability and the workhorse that the pointer is, especially in warmer environments, I've just really gravitated there. So, but I do run some setters too. I have friends and some client dogs, and another gentleman that's got a kennel around him who's given me some dogs. I can't house as many dogs as I can run in a fall. We're working on more housing, as I told you. Putting kennels in back here,
Right.
but at this point, up until this point, at 7 years in business, you don't just immediately jump in and have 10, 15 dogs you got to feed, and they're only working for you for 3-4 months out of the year. It's a big commitment.
Yeah, that is a commitment for sure. I mean, I can
It's
only
all
imagine.
scalable, man. It's scalable as the business grows.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
No,
I'm at the point I need 6, 8 dogs right now, and I don't have them. So
it's
yeah,
like just keep on adding, keep on.
I got good friends. We'll put it to you that way too.
Hey, that's always a good thing. That's
Yeah,
always a good thing. It's always good to have people in your corner. So,
people. Well, go ahead.
yeah, what does it look like in Wisconsin? I mean, I think we've had another guy from Wisconsin. I don't.
Yeah, actually, one of my neighbors here. I actually had
Oh,
caught
are you serious?
listened to him on the podcast, and I'm like, he's from Clear Lake. I mean, he lives right in the next town over, and I
Oh, are you
get a
serious?
call.
Okay, so you're somewhat close.
Yeah, yeah, very close actually. Kind of
Okay,
funny, ironically close.
that
Uh,
is that is funny. We've had this happen twice now, where we've had guys close, and the other group didn't even know that.
I never knew he was there. He's short hair guy and everything. So yeah,
Wow,
kind of
that
funny.
is crazy, man. I
Yeah.
love it. The Upland community's small. That's for
Yeah, so I'm over in northwest Wisconsin. I'm on the edge of grouse country, so I, can drive north and get into Roughies pretty quickly, and we've got some decent resident pheasant populations in a couple of these counties over here. So, and then not too terribly far up the road from there, we've got some resident sharp-tailed grouse. So we've got a variety of birds. Huntable population for grouse is not, or sharp-tails isn't there, but we could run dogs on them in August and stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of the landscape here. What we do, you go north and we're in big timber, and you go south and we're kind of on the edge of that driftless area. If you know
Huh.
anything about the driftless here in Wisconsin.
I don't. I don't know anything about them.
Oh, it give you the quick synapse. It's an area that the glaciers didn't hit, so there's all these limestone bluffs and spring-fed trout streams, and yeah, it's a really pretty area, Wisconsin.
No, that's really neat. I'm actually coming to Wisconsin next month, so
Yeah, where are you going?
we're gonna be in Madison.
Madison? Okay, yeah, it'll be a little northwest of Madison. You can hit the
Okay.
Driftless.
a little
Yeah,
bit northwest of that. Okay,
yeah,
that makes
you should go check it out for a day.
yeah, I definitely have to. Hey, wherever you're around, maybe I know I'm gonna go visit the other guy that we had on as well. So maybe we.
Are you gonna come up? All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to talk about that, man. I'm not far from him.
Okay, sounds good. We may have to make that work.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet. I'm excited. So for you, I mean, okay, you're able to hunt Wisconsin, and then you're also guiding over in more towards me in the Southwest.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what
So
is
we
that
are.
like?
Well, yeah. Totally different than the woods. You know, our rough grouse season kind of starts mid September up here and then runs till early January. But we kind of get snowed out at some point up here typically, and it's really hard to make commitments for clients to come up. So usually a lot of guys want to come up in October, and it's kind of over. And I'll be honest with you, it's really hard to make a living and not have some kind of job, but then you want to guide every day in October, you know, things don't jive. So I had to do something, and I partnered with an outfitter down in New Mexico, and it was a learning curve. I've been hunting the desert for 5 years now, and last year was a fantastic year on quail, so it was a very good year to learn and have to hunt all of these different scenarios. You know, when you're down there for 2 weeks, you know, you don't get to see all the cold fronts and all the stuff that happens and how birds react. And, you know, when you're out there every day for 2.5 months, you get to learn a lot more than you do in a 2 week period. So it was a good year to learn that. But yeah, it's a lot of different terrain as well. You know, you've got the eastern side of the state, which is relatively flat plains. Then you've got, you know, the central mountain kind of area town, you know, down south central New Mexico. And then you've got kind of the southwest, and that's kind of quail country. And then they've got grouse country, you know, duskies and that. I haven't hunted duskies I'm not down there in September, early October when, you know, it's really good to go for duskies. So, but yeah, there's some dusky grouse opportunities down there as well. So, but yeah, quail hunting's a lot of, you know, last year we spent a lot of time hunting bob whites and scaled quail. So we were out on, you know, cholla, a lot of cholla cactus, a lot of prickly pear, sandburrs, just about everything that is bad for a dog. You know, that's where the quail are in the Southwest.
Yeah, that's some rough country out there every once in a while. That's for sure. Quite
There's
different from Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's what I mean in comparison. You know, I mean in all reality, it's not. I've been to some places in Montana that actually I think were worse than worse than what I experienced down in New Mexico. And there's some areas in New Mexico where the cover's relatively mild, and as long as sandburrs don't pop up that year, you know, you can skate away from or stay away from some of the nasty stuff. But I don't know. At the end of the season, man, after all the birds have been chased around, you know where they're going. They're going to the nasty stuff,
That's
and
right. Worst case scenario.
yeah, you got to go chase them.
No, that's awesome, man. So what's it like for your dogs then? I mean, they're changing up terrain quite a bit too, and then species as well. What's that? Has it been kind of a learning curve that way, or taking them?
Well, I think you know you got to take care of your dogs. I mean, that's the number one thing. So I don't. When I go down, we don't start taking hunts until mid-December. So I go down after Thanksgiving. So I've got a couple week period there where kind of I'm scouting, you know, and because we cover the whole state, we've got permits for state and federal ground plus private ranches. So there's a lot to see in a short period of time to figure out where we're going to operate for that season, or at least start. And so that gives me an opportunity to kind of get these dogs pads kind of hardened to some of the harder country down there because they come on. I mean, I can road them, I can run them on gravel up here all day long, but October is really wet in the woods up here, and it softens their pads up. Yeah, I mean it's tough. I spend an hour a night typically going through 4 to 5 dogs pulling stickers, pulling, you know, just taking care of them at the end of the night down there. Depending on where we're going, yeah, it could be up for an hour thinking with dogs at the end of the night, just with a tweezers and a headlamp.
That is great.
Yeah, good quality dog food, supplements, the whole nine yards. Anything you can do to get a little bit out of them and really help them out. At the end of the day, I don't want an injured dog.
Yeah.
So that doesn't do me any good. So I run them all year round. Try to keep them in shape all year round. They get a little bit of off time this year or this summertime. I'm not running them as much as in the fall, but we're still running them every day. A little bit
Wow.
every day.
No, that's awesome, man. And so with this, I mean, you have your own company, of course, and then you have this guiding outfit that you're with in Santa Fe. Where can we find both your own personal company and them as well for some of these listeners?
So mine's Amaazen Outdoors, AMAAZEN.com is the website. If they Google Santa Fe Guiding Company, they'll get a hold of Bob King. I work for Bob King down there. If they want to call me, find my website. I can get you hooked up with Bob. Kind of hand hold that operation if you want to go down south. But yeah, for up here for roughies, I've got a couple guys that work for me. We did 40 days with clients last year. Looking like we're going to get to our 45-day goal this year. So, yeah, we spend all fall in the woods. There's only one day in October I don't guide, and it's my wedding anniversary. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. We'll make sure.
I've got a couple days spared in there, a rest day planned for the dogs, and we go into November, into mid-November. It's pretty intense deal.
That is crazy.
I'm an addict, man. When it comes to this stuff, it's like you only have you got a short window of time. It's the season's what it is. I can't do it all year, and so we try to capitalize as much as we can.
Oh yeah, you're living on borrowed time, I get that.
Yep.
So we'll get all that put into the link, of course. So if anybody's interested in coming and visiting you and doing some hunts, we can get them booked. So that's good.
No, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. All right, everyone. Quick shout out to our friends at Pet Commute. If you ever tried coordinating dog transport yourself, you know it's not simple. Whether it's a new pup coming home, a finished dog heading to a buyer, a field trial trip, or even, let's be honest, your wife needing her little mutt transported safely, Pet Commute handles it professionally. Rachel and I have personally transported with them, and I can confidently say they are reliable, safe, punctual, and they keep owners updated the entire trip. They offer free quotes, and if you mention Bird Camp Radio, you'll get 10% off your pet's travel. Hit the link in the show notes, comments, or our socials. And so when it comes to the bird dogs and bird dog training, what does that typically look for you throughout the year? I mean, you got quite the outfit going on.
Yeah, so I don't train dogs during the season. I might have a client dog with me that understands that, and wants the dog run in that kind of scenario. It's not something I typically like to do, but I've had it happen where, guy wants me to take the dog and understands I'm going to be guiding with it. And so dog's riding on the truck for a week or two. But for the most part, I do kind of one-on-one stuff to start with people, or I do a little bit of board and train I like to run on wild birds. That's kind of my biggest philosophy. So I do a little bit of like yard work with pigeons and try to kind of build concepts, and then I go reinforce them on wild birds. So we have a quiet season where we can't run dogs off leash on wild birds here, and for good reasons. We need to let these birds nest. I don't like pestering them during nesting season. It's as a bird hunter, that's just a big no-no. So our season is a little fluid depending on what we're seeing from a nesting perspective in the spring, or broods in the fall. But typically we come off of our guiding season. I get back here sometime in March. Do a little bit of spring trialing if I have a dog that we're going to run in the spring trials, and then I'll also run the train on wild birds. and do a little bit of pigeon work. But again, the wild bird work is really meant for that time of the year. And it's, 30-minute run, try to get a dog a bird contact or two, make it get a correction, and just steady them up, really. And depending on what the owner wants, from, gun dog to, fully broke dog, that's what we work on. And then in the summertime, like I said, kind of one-on-one, working with people with certain issues out in the field. And then come August 1st, again, we start that wild bird camp. Typically, I only take a couple dogs. I'm not doing this as a, huge money-making opportunity. I really love working bird dogs, and especially young dogs, and getting them off to the right foot and solving the problems. And they're all a little different, and there's always a little challenge with them. So it's kind of fun in that way. Plus, my training philosophy is, you can, spend little time with a dog or a lot of time with a dog, and I like to spend as much time as I can with the dog. I don't like being spread too thin, and especially if somebody's going to pay me to care for that dog, I want to have enough time for it. And I have my own dogs too, so I have to be honest about all that. So yeah, that's kind of and then we go back to, guiding in September. I typically don't take a lot of clients in September, so it's a mixture of scouting, still running some client dogs, and working my dogs. And then, yeah, October 1st, we're on till people stop coming up for the season.
That's awesome.
And then off to New Mexico, man. Hopefully I don't have to see any snow.
That's the way of doing it, man. You get out of there just right in time for it. And
Yeah.
keep on doing it year round. That's awesome. I
Yeah,
love it.
we got a little snow before we left last year, so. And then I came, the problem is I come back in March, and up here, that's typically one of our snowiest months, so.
It's
I
like
get
what I
nice.
come back to.
I know. I'm still trying to convince my wife that, hey, you just got to come down, and we'll stay down there till the first trial happens in the
Yeah.
spring.
I mean, that'd be the way to do it. That's how it would be. I love that. So, when it comes to like Wisconsin and where you're at in Santa Fe, do you what do you have a preference between state, or is it pretty? I mean,
It's pretty damn good, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Like the being able to start on grouse and woodcock, that's that's where I grew up hunting. I still like to get out and do a little pheasant hunting here and there, but kind of being in that tight quarters of the woods, and spending all that time in the woods. But by the time the end of the guiding season up here ends, I'm ready to start seeing my dogs work. I mean, in all reality, in the woods, you know, depending on the dog, you might see that dog a little bit. I've my little pointer. She's gonna be out there, and you're gonna see her swing through here and there, but you're not gonna see her the whole time. So by the time that all ends, it's like, man, I'm ready to let the dogs really stretch and go see some big country. So I really like the seasonal thing. I don't. There's all these little nuances that go into every season, and it's always a little bit different, especially down south. One year the Gamble's quail could be excellent, and that's a totally different hunt than a scaled quail hunt. So, I mean, there's some overlap there, but the birds act a little bit differently, and so, yeah, I don't know. I like the way it's set up, man. I love the
a little
fall in
bit of
Wisconsin,
everything.
dude. I could not miss the fall of Wisconsin. And then I hate winter to the point that I really don't like being socked in the snow with dogs like that. So being able to escape it is just it's what I've been working on for 8 years since I had this dream to start this whole
Finally got it.
yeah, get the hell out of
There. It's a great feeling when a plan comes together. That is for sure.
here. Keep the wheels on the track.
Keep the wheels on the track, man. So with Wisconsin, I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about how it's set up in the Southwest for you. Um, what are you typically hunting over there? Is it mostly public or private land, or a bit of a mix? I'm just curious on how that all works.
So I'll talk from a Midwest grouse perspective. I mean, it's the same for Wisconsin, the same for Michigan, Minnesota, maybe the land type that the state or county says it is. It might be different. You know, Minnesota has tax forfeiture land. Wisconsin has a plethora of county land and then private lands that are available for public hunting that are called managed forest crop lands. Michigan's got a program, and then they've got, you know, federal lands. So there's a lot of different land types. There's Chequamegon National Forest. I tend to don't operate too much in the national forest. They require additional permitting up here, and the just where I kind of operate and what's available for me in the areas that doesn't really pay. If you're up in the Chequamegon, and you're grouse hunting up there, and you got to drive 25 hour to get to some county land. If that was the case, yeah, I'd get a permit, but I'm not. I'm on the edge of it, and what's available for me to cover, you know, for cover types in the forest there, the feds don't cut their forest very often, and that's just, people know that. So we do hunt some private ground up here, although, you know, private's one of those things up here too where the landowner has to really care to manicure the property or manage the property for small game per se. Your typical deer hunters in Wisconsin will want to keep it stand of timber, mature stand of timber, because they want to hang a tree stand somewhere, and you know, whatever the reason. The concept of logging in the deer hunting world up here is a, I don't know, it's a tough conversation. But in the grouse hunting world, logging is amazing. Like we're like, we see loggers and we're like, thank you guys, you know. So again, you have that dynamic where the quality of land, of habitat on some private pieces, you know, is it worth the effort again? You know, I tend to find better hunts on mostly public ground in the state of Wisconsin, and that's you know, part of what I love about up here is we have a plethora of opportunities from state ground, county ground, state programmed private land, federal ground. The northern half of Wisconsin is a lot of public land. and same with Minnesota. You know, Minnesota has a great opportunity over there with public and county and private, or county land and public federal land and state land up there. So yeah, the upper Midwest is the stronghold. It's kind of like some of your states out west where, you know, our between Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, we have a very large number of private land, or public land tracts.
Wow. Yeah, I can only imagine that between all three of those. That's pretty crazy. I'm always curious as to what it looks like for other states because I remember when I went on a Texas hog hunt and
Yeah.
man, like I didn't realize that only 3% of the state was public land. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, I don't even know how to even, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, you go down to New Mexico again, another state with a lot of public land, and um, you go to. I've hunted Kansas for years, and if Kansas didn't have their WEHA program, their walk-in hunter access program, yeah, there's not a lot of public ground in the state of Kansas, you know, and you start looking around in some of those central states like that, it's yeah, it's tough. There's certain places in this country where you can live and you're very blessed.
Yeah.
And you know, it's Wisconsin's one of those.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, with sticking with the Wisconsin, how do you feel? I mean, as a guide, outfitter, conservation is a huge aspect for you, and I mean, for the fun aspect and also the living aspect of it. How do you feel the state does in that way for you?
Oh, I don't know. You don't want to put me on the spot about the state. You know, I've got no qualms about what they do. I guess from a conservation standpoint in the state of Wisconsin, one of the things that I think a lot of people overlook, and should be really thankful for is the fact that most of our counties have a forester. We have huge presence of RGS up here in the Northwoods who are working hand in hand with private landowners, county foresters to put together timber sales, to open up new habitat, to, access issues, all kinds of stuff. I've been a huge supporter of RGS for years. Conservation wise, man, really the people here in this state are the ones, maybe not so much our government, but we've got programs like the Wisconsin Sharp-tailed Grouse Society who've been doing great work and have been single-handedly probably the reason that we have sharp-tail left in the state of Wisconsin. There's a kid in Stevens Point who started an initiative called the Prairie Chicken Project, and we have one of the very few remnant populations of prairie chickens in east of the Mississippi here in Wisconsin, and it takes heavy management to keep those birds on the landscape. He's putting together work days out on Buena Vista Wildlife Management Area. They're going out and cutting brush and hands-on conservation work, dude, right out of Stevens Point. Prairie Chicken Project, huge shout out to Bill and what he's done with that. He's been fighting solar farms and all kinds of crap going on down there with those chickens. And yeah, they're nostalgic, man. There'll never be a huntable population of chickens there, but there's no reason that those birds need to disappear. They've been there for a long time, and we have the property. The state has the property to keep them there, and so it should be a forefront of conservation. And Bill's done a nice job to kind of make sure that we're not all forgetting about them. But yeah, we've got Pheasants Forever here. We've got all Ducks Unlimited, all the big conservation groups, and they do a nice job. We've got good chapters up here. We raise a lot of money for RGS, and I get to hunt, not hunt, but guide up at the National Rough Grouse Society hunt again this year, which is always an honor to be invited to that. So yeah, conservation is a huge issue. I mean, I don't believe in going out and killing bag limits every day, and I'm blessed with a lot of clients who understand that hunting rough grouse over pointing dogs is tough, and that bag limits aren't what we shoot for. We shoot for a good time and trying to get a few birds in the bag and some good shots, some good dog work, and an awesome experience in the woods. And hey, if all the stars align and you shoot good and there's plenty of birds and you end up getting a limit, great. But at the end of the day, that's kind of the last thing on our wish list for the day. It's making sure everybody comes home safe and has a blast in the woods and gets to see some good dog work and has some opportunities on some birds.
Wow. That's what it's all about. That's great to be able to hear that you guys got that line of communication there. I mean, it honestly takes a village when it comes to conservation. I mean, it really takes a village to do anything, but it really seems like you guys got quite the
There's
setup.
there's a lot of attacks on our public lands, our traditions, and we are blessed here in Wisconsin that we have a huge hunting and public land tradition, and people that kind of stand up and say, hey, we're not going to take that, if it gets to that point. We'll never be able to not hunt here in the state of Wisconsin. I'll tell you that. It will
There we
never
go.
be any kind of Oregon situation here in Wisconsin. We have way too many people that hunt. So, yeah, we feel blessed with that. I wish more people would get involved with conservation because we do have that many people. And, we get kind of the same amount of people, probably percentage-wise, that participate in conservation. We just have a lot of hunters here, so it's kind of a numbers game.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's good news, and I always love to be able to hear that everything's going well over in your part of the woods. So that's good, man. So I got one more. Well, I got a few more questions real quick before we wrap it up, but I'm just curious about heading back southwest to, I mean, multiple species of those quail that you're hunting.
Yeah.
What sets apart the Montezuma from the rest of the quail species that you're hunting out there? I'm just curious.
So Montezumas are up in the mountains. You can get into some gambles at some elevation, but the terrain and the place, the kind of sky islands, call them, of the Southwest, were Merns or Montezuma quail. The whole Mearns quail, people in Arizona call them. Like my boss, like I showed up and I said, I want to go hunt some Mearns. And he goes, we don't call them Mearns here. They are Montezuma quail in this state. And so I got corrected real quickly. But they are just, so they hold really well. They don't move a ton. They're not like a scale quail where, they're going to run on you. Like a Mearns quail, their instinct is hide. So you're up in this high country and it's tough terrain. It's tough on the dogs. These birds probably, haven't moved all that much for the day. So the scent's really small. You're trying to find this needle in a haystack, and you're just in some of the most pristine, beautiful. I've been to national forests all over the place, but you get into the Gila or, the Adol Leopold or, man, the Lincoln National, like it's just different for me. It hits differently. In a covey flush at 6,500 feet overlooking the desert as a backdrop, like, I don't know, dude. There isn't a whole lot prettier for me. Watching a dog on point overlooking the desert, it's just, it's pretty neat when you're, this Midwestern grouse kid who, a lot of us grouse hunters don't even like our dogs to run more than 20 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards out. And down there, it's like, turn out, girls. Like, yeah. So you turn, dog goes on point up the wash, you get the notification 300 yards out, and you start making this trek up, and all of a sudden, you get that glimmer, and there they are. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The paint job on Montezuma quail on a male is gorgeous as well. I'd argue probably the prettiest quail in North America. So it's a neat bird. Plus, again, it's a bird that really fluctuates based on summer monsoons down there, and they haven't had any the last couple of years. So the numbers are low, and you can get into years where there's some really good Montezuma quail hunting, but it hasn't been that way the last couple of years. So there's this kind of almost big game trophy hunt to it for me. And like I said, I've been doing it on my days off down there the last couple of years, and it's just like, man, I just want a good Montezuma year. I'm praying that getting rain. I'm like, I'm just praying it happens, because I'd love to spend my whole season down there chasing those birds, but I don't know that that's feasible in the next couple of years, just given the state of things. So yeah. So anyways, you got high country Montezuma quail, and as you kind of come down, then you run into scalies and gambles, depending on what side of the state you're on. And then if you're on the far eastern side of the state, there's bob whites over there too. So yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's crazy. No, I was just curious about that. But man, this has been a lot of fun being able to learn more about you, what you're doing out there with your guiding, and from the Southwest up to where you're at right now. So we appreciate your time on here and your willingness to come on. But before we finish, I want to ask one last question, and that's do you have any advice for uplanders, new uplanders coming up, or however you want to answer that? What kind of advice would you give these guys?
Get that dog.
That dog.
Get that dog.
That's right. That's right. I'll take that to heart.
Yeah, get that dog. No, and I guess the other thing too is just freaking go. Go. Go explore. That's the beauty of this game. There are so many different bird species in this country, and as you head west, there are so many opportunities depending on where you're at in the country. Even up in Maine and Vermont, there's opportunities for roughies up there. Pennsylvania, there are birds that you can hunt in every state in this country. There isn't a place that if you went in October, December, or January, you probably can bring your shotgun and your dog. Like, I don't know. I've been all over the country from border to border, and I find some of the coolest places chasing my dog. So get that dog. and go. You know, figure out the rest on the way.
I'll take it to heart. It doesn't get much better than that. You can't do much sitting on the couch. So I
No.
completely agree, man. It's get out there, enjoy the experience. Like we talked about earlier, we're on borrowed time every day. Get out, do it. You only have so many seasons, so much
Yep.
time. Just do it.
Yep. Don't worry about it, man. It'll all work out, and you'll learn. You know,
That's
I wasn't that good at this long, you know, not too terribly long ago. And I just dedicated a lot of time to and being a woodsman and a hunter my whole life. The transition was pretty easy to kind of really get addicted to this and be able to piece things together. But yeah, I mean, I still go, like I said, I'm still trying to figure out Merman's quail down in New Mexico. It's challenging. And
there's
there's
always
always a chance. There's pheasant lodges in South Dakota. You can go chase the hardest freaking bird in North America. What do you want? I mean, there's opportunity out there. All you just got to go. You got to go find it, and you'll find it if you look for it.
I love it. That's why I ask. That's why I ask these questions to you guys, because you guys always give the best advice. Well,
That's
I
what got me,
appreciate it.
man, was the adventure of it. So go have an adventure.
Heck yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
Well, it's been great, man, getting to talk to you, get to know you and everything that you're doing out there. And like I said, we'll get everybody the links to this in here so we can get it all figured out for you and hopefully get some guys out there with you. So
right
thank
on,
you
man.
again for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. It's a good time.
Thank you. Thank you again, everyone, for listening to the Bird Camp Radio Podcast. I hope you enjoyed episode 40 with Brian as much as we did. But before you go, we need to release his time for the rapid fire around the campfire game. Brian, your time was 41.67 seconds, which puts you in 15th place overall. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. You know where to find us. You can listen to this episode on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And if you want to watch it, you can find it on YouTube. You can also find us on our social media platforms on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Bird Camp Radio. Thank you again. Until next week. You've been listening to Bird Camp Radio, where the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and shelf rock ledges always call us back. Until next time, keep your dogs close, your shot true, and your campfire stories ready to share. We'll see you back at camp. Don't miss out on the next episode where we'll host our next guest on the podcast. You don't want to miss this one. Thank you.